Welcome to the 700 Club. Both Terry and Wendy are traveling today, so we've got Ashley Key from our social media team and from Interactive joining us. And welcome. This is your first time hosting the 700?
My first time, and I'm blessed to be right beside you.
Okay. All right. Well, we had a Democratic debate, the third one, and the first time all top 10 presidential candidates have taken the stage together.
And no surprise, fireworks followed. Jennifer Wishon has the story.
The top 10 Democrats running to challenge President Trump for the White House jockeyed to distinguish themselves in this third face-off. Wedged in between the two most liberal candidates, Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, frontrunner Joe Biden cast himself as a practical progressive, painting Medicare for all as out of touch.
This is about candor, honesty, big ideas. Well, let's have a big idea. The tax of 2% that the senator's talking about, that raises about $3 billion. Guess what? That leaves you about $28 billion short. The senator said before it's going to cost you in your pay. There will be a deductible in your paycheck.
Let us be clear, Joe. In the United States of America, we are spending twice as much per capita on health care as the Canadians or any other major country on earth.
This is America.
Yeah, but Americans don't want to pay twice as much as other countries.
And while Biden tossed a few arrows, he took twice as many, the sharpest from former Obama housing secretary Julian Castro.
He wants to take credit for Obama's work, but not have to answer to any questions.
I stand with Barack Obama all 8 years, good, bad, and indifferent.
Castro struck another blow still reverberating among Democrats when he played into speculation about Biden's mental acuity.
My plan would do that. Your plan would not.
They do not have to buy in. They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
Have to buy in. If she qualifies for Medicaid,
are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
Be in for it.
Are you forgetting already what you said just 2 minutes ago?
Senator Kamala Harris made a name for herself by going after Biden in the first debate, but this time she kept her focus on the president.
Donald Trump in office on trade policy, you know, he reminds me of that guy in The Wizard of Oz, you know, when you pull back the curtain, it's a really small dude.
During a passionate moment on gun violence, Congressman Beto O'Rourke gave the NRA ample ammunition to fire up its base.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
The big question candidates are asking today, will their performances move the needle in the polls? Early consensus here in Washington appears to be no. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
Well, our CBN News senior political analyst David Brody is with us now from Washington, D.C. And David, did anybody come through with a standout performance?
Well, when you use the word standout, Gordon, the answer is no. Did Joe Biden have a good performance? Yes, but of course, good is all relative compared to the first debacle that he had, and then the second debate was less of a debacle, and this one was good, but not great necessarily. As a matter of fact, he was invoking record players at one point. Going back, I thought I was watching a debate in 1977 at some point when he mentioned the word record player. The point is that he was a bit off his game as the debate wore on, and believe me, it wore on. It was close to 3 hours. I thought I'd missed this live shot because of it at some point, but it finally did end. Look, I got to tell you, Gordon, it's what Biden did well, though, was at the beginning with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, painting them as extreme on this Medicare for all. I thought he scored some points there, and Elizabeth Warren couldn't answer the key question, or she didn't want to answer the key question, is middle-class taxes going to go up? She said overall costs would go down. She never said middle-class taxes would not go up. I think that's going to be a tricky point for her going forward.
Well, in the commentary the day after, she sort of painted as the winner of it. Do you agree with that? That her stock is going up? She's going to overtake Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, I think she is going to overtake Bernie Sanders. Once again, she had a good performance, but she's had a couple of good performances even before this. You know, she's the serious school teacher who kind of has her act together. Now, a lot of critics will say it's a socialism act, but she at least has her act together, and she's able to kind of cloak all of this socialism talk in an American flag, kind of draped down Main Street. It's like an economic populism. With Bernie Sanders, the difference is with Bernie, hey, he's on a train to Leningrad somewhere in Russia. And so that's the difference. Bernie, an unavowed socialist. Elizabeth Warren, economic populism, Americana. It feels different. That's why she's rising, and Bernie isn't.
How do you see this playing out? We've got a long way to go here before we come to a nominee. Do you have an odds-on winner at this point? Is it still going to be Biden?
Well, I mean, I think the smart money technically would be on Biden. I don't necessarily see it that way, Gordon. I think Elizabeth Warren's stock is indeed rising. If you look at some of the poll numbers, and this is really interesting, you know, just this last poll that came out, it was a YouGov poll, and, you know, there are a lot of different polls out there, and it showed that Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden were tied at 24%. I didn't really look at that number. I went to the crosstabs, and inside the crosstabs, it shows whether or not you think this person, this candidate, can beat Donald Trump. 36% of folks, Democrats, believe that Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump inside that crosstab. 33% of Democrats believe Elizabeth Warren can beat Donald Trump. That is very close. Not good news for Biden, because remember, Biden's calling card all along has been he's the guy that could beat Trump. If Democrats start seeing that Elizabeth Warren actually could go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump on stage, which she has shown in these first couple of debates, I think that bodes well for her. It would not surprise me. I mean, don't timestamp this moment, Gordon, or anything, but I can see Elizabeth Warren being the nominee for the Democrats against Donald Trump. That could be the revenge of Pocahontas. It could be.
Well, I won't have to timestamp it. I think the Internet's going to do that for us.
Good point.
So you've made your prediction. Now, do you have any context in the Republican camp? Do they have a preferred opponent? Do they want Biden in that seat, or do they want Elizabeth Warren?
You know, this has kind of shifted a little bit. I think at the beginning, and they'll never say this publicly, this is all kind of just as I kind of talked to some Republicans in those circles and some folks close to the White House. But look, at the beginning, they were concerned more about Biden, you know, the whole rural, middle, blue-collar Democrat, that they were concerned about losing to Biden. Now it's shifted a little bit, and they are concerned a lot more about Elizabeth Warren. Why? She's a better version of Hillary. I mean, she just is. I mean, she's able to make that coherent argument. And here's the thing. When she was talking about trade in the debate on Thursday night, she was really kind of channeling that economic populism. And that concerns a lot of folks in the Republican Party, that she's able to do that pretty well. And most importantly, she's probably the most authentic person on stage. Bernie's definitely authentic. But Elizabeth Warren truly believes this stuff, and she's able to articulate it very, very well, kind of in a school teacher way. I mean, heck, she said she wanted to be a school teacher. That's what she wanted to be her whole life. Well, now she's a school teacher running for president of the United States, and she's doing a very good job at it, very authentic, and she's a true believer, and that translates on the campaign trail.
All right. Well, David, thanks for the analysis. And David Brody from Washington, D.C. In other news, for a second time in less than a year, a delegation of U.S. Christian leaders accepted an invitation to visit Saudi Arabia. Charlene Aaron has that story from the CBN newsroom. Charlene?
That's right, Gordon. The visit marked one more step in a growing relationship between American evangelicals and the Sunni Arab leaders of the Middle East. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from the city of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia.
The visit certainly made the national news here.
To see every newspaper in this country have evangelicals above the fold, not hiding our visit, but celebrating our visit. This is, to put it mildly, this is historic.
The delegation met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on the eve of the anniversary of 9/11. To some, it may seem like an unlikely time, but the leader of the delegation, Joel Rosenberg, said there was a purpose behind the timing.
The Saudi Arabia of 18 years ago, the Saudi Arabia that, you know, out of which Osama bin Laden came, Al-Qaeda, and the radical theology of violent jihad, that Saudi Arabia doesn't exist anymore. They have made sweeping changes that most Americans, most Christians aren't aware of.
I was profoundly astounded of how much freedoms are being given to women here.
We talk about veiled women, women under the veil, and the country under the veil. And I think there's a veil over people's perceptions in the West. There's a misunderstanding.
Many in the West see the Crown Prince and Saudi Arabia through a prism, including the murder investigation of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. While not dismissing the crime, Rosenberg and the delegation felt it important to be in the room with a voice.
The opportunity to be in the room and build a relationship means you can also ask hard questions. You can ask direct questions. You can engage on human rights issues, religious freedom issues. How can you affect it if you don't have an opportunity to talk to the top leaders?
Nothing was hidden. Nothing was off the table in terms of discussion.
Larry Ross served as Billy Graham's spokesman for more than 3 decades.
I think Mr. Graham was a good example of how speaking truth to power and getting accomplished a lot more personally, privately, than you can making bold public statements, critical statements.
Only 2 U.S. senators have visited Saudi Arabia in the past year. Rosenberg and the delegation hope other U.S. leaders will seek to meet the country's leaders face to face and see firsthand a sometimes unknown story. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
The government of the Bahamas has issued a tropical storm warning for the same area that was recently devastated by Hurricane Dorian. The Category 5 hurricane flattened large areas, including entire neighborhoods. The official death toll stands at 50, but is expected to rise, and 1,300 people are still listed as missing. CBN's Operation Blessing has been on the ground helping those in need, providing clean water, solar lamps, and medical supplies and medicines, along with food, as the country struggles to deal with the mass destruction from Dorian. Such great needs there, Gordon.
Well, there's huge needs, and if you want to be a part of the answer, you can give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. If you'd like to do that, you can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. Just put Disaster Relief Fund on the memo line of your check, or you can call us right now, 1-800-700-7000. I spoke with our team that was in the Bahamas. They're now back regrouping, re-equipping, will be deployed again on Monday to help the people in desperate need. But they said it is absolutely horrific what has happened there, where literally buildings aren't standing anymore. There's nothing to even put a tarp on. So we're dealing with multiple problems, and it's the remote islands that aren't getting any kind of relief aid there. That's where we're going to be targeting when we go back, to bring them food, water, in some way that they can have shelter. So if you want to be a part of this, call us, 1-800-700-7000.